All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to Digital Growth Live. I'm Emily Lopez, the host. I'm super excited for our new guest today, Ninya Walters. She's going to be talking a little bit about her journey as an author with her company, Teal, Teal Butterfly Press. But again, this platform, Digital Growth Live, is a platform for all women entrepreneurs, really shining a light on trying to get to 100 entrepreneurs from different industries, shining a light on women who are just rocking their business. And we talk about their business, their journey, and how they have succeeded. And we also talk about how they implement and have fun and pleasure in their life as they're working through their business. So here's my guest, Ninya. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here with you. It's been quite a journey on this author channel, so I'm really excited to talk to you.
Awesome, because I'm so excited to talk to you about your book. You're doing a lot of amazing things, but also the journey as an author, because I know a lot of entrepreneurs eventually think like, I want to write a book. And while we think it seems like it's so easy to do, like, yes, I'm going to write a book. Writing a book is hard. And then after you do that, that is like where the fun just begins, because then you have to market and release it and publish it.
Yes,
So we're going to ask some questions around that for the audience. But
absolutely.
I really would love for you just to introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Ninya. I also have a pen name called Blair Bryan, and I've always loved writing. It's something I've always wanted to do since I was real little. I mean, I have vivid memories of being 7 years old, in my bedroom, just scribbling into these journals. So it's always been in my heart, but it's never been a journey that I decided to kind of go all in on until just a few years ago. So my background is in actual digital marketing. And so I had a successful business with my ex-husband, and things didn't go well with the marriage. So that always kind of translates over into the business. And it just seemed like the right time for me to go all in on myself. And so I did.
Love it. Love it. And so was that kind of your pivotal moment where you were like, I love writing, I'm just going to go for it?
Yeah, I've always been kind of a self-help junkie, I guess you could call me. So I've always am trying to improve myself. And everything that I was reading and the podcasts I was listening to were encouraging me to follow really what my heart was put here to do. And I'm an incredible introvert, so this is really outside my comfort zone to even be here with you. But I've always been someone who really kind of thinks things a little more differently, I think, than the average person does. And so I was excited for an opportunity to share that. And it's been a road. I mean, you don't really know the undertaking that it will ultimately be until you're kind of knee deep in it. And then you kind of have to have that grit to just continue and, try to make that way for yourself.
Yeah. And so how many books have you written right now?
So my most popular book is a memoir that I wrote, and actually, I'll just throw it to you here. This is Scotland with a Stranger. It was kind of
God,
ties into
show
your.
that book a little bit more. I like when I work with my women, I'm like, brag about your work. So
There
yes,
it is.
show it.
Yes, and so I was. It wasn't something that I was initially going to write about. I have been through, my life has been very challenging in the last 4 or 5 years. And I went through some really difficult times with my kids and some other personal things. And so I found myself after reading Eat, Pray, Love, I wanted to have that kind of experience my whole life. And when an opportunity presented itself, I jumped at the chance to go do it.
Mm.
So I met a woman in a Facebook group. She was someone I didn't know at all. And she knew my story a little bit because, when you're in a Facebook group, you share some information.
Yeah.
And she just reached out to me and said, I want to go to Scotland. It's kind of on my heart to take women who've been through traumatic events and take them through Scotland. And I was like, sign me up. That sounds amazing. I had never been out of the country. It was just that kind of like adventurous thing I wanted to do. And it just seemed like, when the student is ready, the teacher appears kind of moment. Now, it wasn't exactly the kind of person or trip that I had anticipated I was going to go on, but it was a crazy story. And when I got home, I just thought, I was talking to my boyfriend and he said, "You need to write that down. I mean, that is just a crazy story that no one would ever believe." And so I did. And that was my most, that's the book that's been the bestseller for me so far.
Wow. I love it because, as entrepreneurs and just as people in general, we have this kind of idea of how success will look like or how the path will look like, how we're going to get there. But then, I mean, you just said, and it's for everyone too. It's like, it never looks like that.
No,
It never looks like that journey we think it's going to be with like the white picket fence and like the butterflies flying with you.
absolutely.
Um,
Yep.
but but yeah, I think that's where the magic happens when you allow yourself to just say, okay, like this is what I've always wanted to do.
Yep.
Take me, show
Exactly.
me. And then it brings you to Scotland in the middle of doing all the fun stuff that you were doing and experiencing, and you're like, what is going on? But right now it's your bestseller.
Yes. And I'm actually recording the audiobook right now. So it's really interesting to me. I almost about halfway through. I wasn't going to record it myself because I just, thought I would just have a professional actor do it. And there's some controversial stuff in the book. And so the actor that I had initially auditioned and had gotten through the contract process pulled out at the last minute. And so I was really disappointed. I was like, oh, she had just had this great voice and she was so good to work with. And I actually ended up working with her on a couple of my fiction projects. She's still amazing. But so a friend of mine said, well, why don't you just record it yourself? And for a second, I thought, well, maybe I could, like how hard is that? And that is actually probably my greatest, my greatest strength and my greatest weakness, because I feel like, oh, I can do that, so I get myself into situations that are maybe a little bit bigger than I should be. And I, stumble through them and figure it out. But it's been an interesting process. And what really made me decide to do it was my friend said, I really love it when a memoir is recorded in the author's voice, because I feel like it's more personal that way.
Yeah.
And it's been fun to record it. It has also been eye-opening because the book is about 2 years old. And I have really grown as a writer in the last 2 years. And so there's some cringeworthy moments in there. And so it really brought me to this place where I thought, okay, you know what? I could go back and I could make this book so much better than it currently is. But I've really come to this place in my life where I'm not interested in going back anymore. And so I'm just going to allow it to mark where I was at that moment. And I'm going to move forward, and hopefully my readers will come with me on the next journey. And so it's just one of those things where, do you go back or do you keep moving forward? And I really want to keep moving forward.
I love that because again, as an entrepreneur, you face that all the time, right? I mean, and from a marketing perspective, I face that all the time. Like I'm always learning how to make a marketing slick or sales slick or like a video better. And then it's like, do I go back to the stuff that I worked on before, or do like I continue to just keep letting it evolve? And I feel like a lot of times women entrepreneurs, like they want to make everything perfect. So then they go back to their stuff and then like time suck. And then you're just like trying to be the perfectionist, and then like you don't move forward, and then you get in this frustration period of like, why am I not doing what I need to do? Is because you're trying to be perfect. So like you come to this crossroad of like, all right, so accept it as it is. It was exactly what it needed to be at that moment. It taught you everything that you needed to do. And now I get to choose. And I think you said that it's like you choose to move forward.
Yes, for sure. For sure. I'm working on another memoir now. I just got back from a trip with my daughter. We went to Tennessee and did a treehouse tour. And it was the reason I decided to do that was I just felt like she's going to be 18. They're going to be 18. I'm still struggling. My daughter's queer, and that's the pronoun thing. I'm still wrapping my head around that. But they're almost 18. And I feel this like pull that time's running out and I need to, have these moments. And because of the things that have taken me away from, that quality time that I wanted, all the things that happened in the last 4 years with my son, and some, there were some mental health and substance abuse issues that really took away a lot of time. So I didn't feel like I had that. I just didn't feel like we had enough of those amazing memories of the childhood. And so I was really pulled to do something about it. And so we went on this trip, and it was amazing. And I learned so much. And I'm really excited to really get down into the meat of that and write it into another memoir.
Awesome. And there's some other books that you've written too. Anything else near and dear to your heart that you want the viewers to know about?
Well, my nearest and dearest is When Wren Came Out. That just released July 1st. And that's under my pen name, Blair Bryan. And all the books can be found at the website at tealbutterflypress.com.
Okay.
But this is a story that is based, the characters are a little bit based on me and some of the feelings that I had when my child came out as queer a few years ago. And I was born Catholic, and I had all of these preconceived ideas and all this indoctrination in my head. And I really struggled through that process to come to the acceptance and, the fully, like, I love you, not I love you anyway. And so it's,
you just gave me goosebumps. And I'm probably going to start to cry, because that's what this what not only this nation, but this world needs. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I can't take credit for that. So I was actually being interviewed for the book, and by a queer man named Steve, and he's with Bursting Through is his foundation. But he was telling me, I always used to say, it doesn't matter. I love you. I love you anyway. It doesn't matter. It does matter, because what you're saying, when you say I love you anyway, it qualifies it, and it just puts you in this place of judgment still. I don't agree with what you're doing. I don't agree with who you love. And we need to remove that from the conversation. So that was a very powerful lesson that I learned through writing this book and through meeting the people that have come into my life since then. And it's a really important message to share, because as allies, we don't have enough information. We don't know what to say. We don't know those conversations where things hurt that maybe we don't know. I didn't think it was offensive to say I love you anyway.
Yeah,
it is, and so it's really caused me to think about things differently. And I'm just looking forward to learning more and, making my child feel loved, no matter what that looks like. We're still figuring that out. We're still, in the questioning part of it, and that's okay.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. Thank you. Any other nuggets, that you want to share from the book, or just like kind of these eye-opening experiences for yourself?
Absolutely. So the character is very traditionally minded, which I would say that I am as well. There is kind of a tug of war between, your values and what you want for your child. And so it's kind of coming to grips with that. But there's one statistic that just really stuck out for me, and I just want to make sure I'm quoting it right, so I don't have it wrong here. So when I was doing the research to write the book, there was one quote that stuck out for me. So when an LGBTQ plus child has one parent as an ally, the suicide rate goes from 41% down to 6%.
Wow.
And that is huge. There are kids that are kicked out of their homes, that are homeless. That is one of the biggest growing of the population, of the LGBTQ population, are homeless teens that are, kicked out of their home because they're just not accepted. And it's also a message of authenticity, I think. When you're okay, when you're allowing your child to be their authentic self, it almost gives you the power to also be your authentic self. And so that's what I love about the two characters in the book. The mother is trying to understand her daughter, and her daughter, by coming out and being as authentic as she can be, is kind of encouraging the mother to find that same path. And that's what's really cool about it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm curious, like, as you're going through this journey with, do I say they? As you're going through this journey with they, and you're finding like your authenticity as they are exploring their authenticity, like what type of like support do you go to, or like how did you like support yourself through that process? I'm just really curious.
Well, it was interesting, and that was kind of one of the reasons I wrote the book. Is I always go to the internet. I
Oh,
always search up articles, to try to understand the feelings. Are the feelings I have normal? To validate those feelings you have, because you hit the gamut of so many things. You're scared for your child because it exposes them to hate in a hateful world, and that's just the nature of it. And you just try to validate or find out more information. And what's interesting to me is that LGBTQ plus the entire community is very welcoming, and they want to be understood. So don't be afraid to ask those questions. Look for information. And so when I was looking for a book in this type of, to answer these questions for myself, there really wasn't much available. There was when I was talking to my daughter about it, they said that there aren't very many books with this subject matter that end in a happy or a hopeful or, a positive light. And that just breaks my heart. And that was what I was coming up against too when I was looking for information. And so I just decided to write one, and try to fill that void.
yeah, I love that. And I love that you're writing it from your perspective, and especially since you said you're coming from more traditional value systems or belief. Because I think that's really important, because people are struggling with these questions like, what do I like? How do I feel about this? What can I like? You're really just breaking down all the beliefs that you've ever had from when you were young, right? And
Absolutely.
that is scary within itself.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so yeah,
It's almost like, when you have a child that comes out, it's almost like the entire foundation is just destroyed. And, that can be as destructive as you let it be.
mm-hmm.
But then you have the ability to build something back that is better and stronger and able to withstand anything. And so to me, that's a beautiful process, even though it comes with some destruction.
Yeah, yeah, wow. Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think that's like, for me, that's like the process of life. A lot of times we always think like everything has to be cheery and perfect, but like until you go through like some dark moments, until you go through like the messy stuff, you can't get to that beautiful transformation and something new. So by
Absolutely.
you telling that story, it allows people to like, okay, these dark or scary questions are okay. Like they are part of the process, and it allows people to continue to like go on their own journey, right? And make their own new
Absolutely.
belief systems.
Yep. So important. And to ask the questions. I mean, I've had so many interesting conversations with my child about all kinds of things. When I don't know something, I ask, and I'm learning. I still am pretty ignorant when it comes to, the struggle and I don't understand all of the genders. I don't understand sometimes the gender versus the sexuality. So, there's a lot there, and there's a
Yeah.
lot to unpack there. And so it's about asking the questions and then just having a natural curiosity, to find out and understand other people.
Yeah. And I think too, for me, like even me, like I struggle with like the genders, the sexualities, and I feel like there's always something new. Luckily I
Mhm.
have very progressive friends. So they're like, girl, come on, get with the program.
Love it.
I'm like,
Absolutely.
okay, but like I struggle with asking the questions because I don't want to be offensive. But what I think is like if you're in these conversations and you come from a really heartfelt place and say, hey, like I
Mhm.
really just want to be there and I really want to see you and I really kind of want to understand it. I think then that gives yourself the permission, right? Because we're talking about authenticity. And then it
Yep.
also is like it shows that other person that you really genuinely care.
Exactly. And it gives them a safe space to open up and talk in a more frank way and more
Yeah.
authentic way, because when someone shares that with you, that is sacred information.
Yeah.
And they're terrified about what your response is going to be unless they, know you or have made some preconceived idea about how you're going to handle it. But they're very vulnerable at that point, and they just want to be understood for the most part. And I mean, everyone does. I want to be understood. All these things that are happening with, Roe versus Wade. It's bubbling up all of this, outrage and this fear. And, there's a lot to wade through. And, I feel like we're all trying to understand each other, the people that are, for the most part, people that are good. And we do try to understand each other, but we're so divided now. We need to be able to have these conversations or we're never going to get back together.
Yeah. And that's why I was really excited to talk to you when you were telling me about your book. Because it's like, I feel like some of the principles are the foundations of how do we have these difficult conversations, because there's so many difficult conversations to be had and people don't want to have a conversation. They just want to spew their belief, and that is truth.
Yeah.
And that's not going to get us any place, right?
No.
I always say, like, I always believe that there's a good in everyone, and their belief system is because of how they were brought up. So that is truth for them. But
Yeah.
like, come to the conversation with an understanding and listening that, okay, yeah, that was true for them. And, or, right? Like, but it's not just a hard.
Yes, it is. It's interesting. Their experience isn't necessarily your experience. So it's trying to get to that common ground. And most people, that are good people and are wanting that to be in connection rather than division, are willing to have those hard conversations so that it opens the door rather than shuts it.
Yeah, I love it. So what do you love most about being an author?
It's really interesting. So I love to write in the early morning. So I get up ridiculously early because I'm still working a day job right now until I hit the bestseller list. That's the plan. But so I get up pretty early.
Manifesting that for
Yeah,
you.
right. I'm like bringing it in. Come on, I'm ready. I'm ready.
All right, audience, make sure you start buying her books. Go to Teal Butterfly Press.
Oh, I hope so. That would be like my biggest dream come true. My mom, before she passed, she was a big reader. And her measuring stick of a good book was if it was on the New York Times bestseller list. So I'm like, come on, Mom, help me out. Help me out.
We'll get you there.
Yeah. So I think some of the best parts of being an author are I just love the writing process, like the refining, getting a line down and it just hitting your heart a certain way. I also have, because I have what I call trauma brain, just from some of this stuff that has happened, I have a very short-term memory loss. So I will write my book and then I'll read it and it'll be like reading a new book. So it's,
wow.
And then when I read through it again and those moments, I'm like, I can't believe I wrote that line. For me, that is a really great moment when a line just hits your heart in a way that just, I don't know, there's just something about it. There's certain lines that you write or certain lines that you read where you just almost have to close your book for a second and think about it because it's so perfect.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's the part that I love about it. And then, just trying new things, trying to explore some of the things in my head, that we've gone through and just creating characters that people love. My characters are usually kind of off the wall people, maybe marginalized would probably be a better term. One of my favorite books that hasn't been well read by anyone, and someday it will be because it's one of my best books, but it's called The Phonologist, and he's a bipolar comedian who wins the lottery ticket. And it's kind of a pay it forward with a twist. So I love that book, and he's a character that I will keep forever.
Awesome. I love it. So is there anything else that you want the viewers to know about you or your books?
That's a good question. I would just, if you're a women's fiction author or a women's fiction reader and you like quirky characters with heart, I would love to have you give them a try. It's been kind of a labor of love for me because I have gone at this as a legitimate business. So there's a lot of kind of talk and self-publishing that people are writing books and then just throwing them up on KDP and Amazon to sell them without going through the full process. And I have spent a lot of time and a lot of money, and I have a full-time editor that reads through everything I'm writing. And I mean, it's like blood, sweat, and tears in these pages. So I'm really proud of them. And I know that someday all the stars will align And, I'll be able to do this full time because that's my dream. And hopefully I'll get there.
You'll get there. You'll get
Yeah.
there. I always say like part of, and I believe in like manifesting and having my strong intention and getting everything, and I get everything that I want.
Yep.
But I believe part of it is saying it out loud and being witnessed by people. So now you're being witnessed by all of the virtual world.
That's
So
right.
the universe is like, oh yeah, I hear her, I hear her, I hear her. So bestseller
Exactly.
around the corner.
Yes, right? I mean, I hope so. Just let it rain down. That would be great. It's really
Yeah.
great as an author to like connect with readers. So, reviews are always awesome to hear how people, take your characters in or maybe the storyline. That's been really fun. But yeah, it's been a wild ride, and I've been learning every step of the way.
Yeah, awesome. And I mean, part of being an entrepreneur is the continued journey, right? So you
Yes.
see, Ninya has not just written one book and wants to be a bestseller. Like this, she's like blood, sweat, and tears into all of her books, right? As
Yes.
that editor, like going through the process, trying to expand on her skill sets, doing an audio book, right? It's like she continues to build and builds and builds not only the complexity of like her characters, but then the skill sets she has, right? So as
Yes.
an entrepreneur, like that is part of the process and part of the journey.
Yeah, I think, I mean, and you probably feel this too. And any entrepreneur that's watching this, you're driven. You're driven. You know what your end goal is, and you're maybe don't know all the steps you have to take to get there, but that's what gets you out of bed in the morning and gets you excited about life. And you're probably like me, where you're kind of competitive with yourself. You're like, okay, if I do setting these goals, and I'm going to do this weekend, and I'm going to make these many contacts, and so it becomes this process. And I feel like my whole life I've built businesses for other people, mainly men. That's not a bad thing, but this is an opportunity for me to step out in a big way for myself. And so that has been scary, but good. And I feel like for the first time, I'm building something that will sustain me and my kids. And, it's for me. And that is a huge shift, I think. I was so used to being this background player and, contributing to the success of others, but to step out on your own is sometimes a little scary. And so, I've been navigating that as well.
Well, bravo. Kudos to you. I mean, and really that's the reason I'm doing Digital Growth Live. This is my passion project, right? Like
Yes.
you, that the way we met is through our 9 to 5
Yeah.
doing marketing. And then I started seeing you post on LinkedIn about like your other side, your books. And I was like, oh, cool, right? But
Yeah.
my passion is helping women to really like set the world on fire through their voice, be
Yes.
seen, be heard in this digital world. And as scary as it may seem, know that they can do it. And like, I'm also want to create like a sisterhood, right? So like every woman entrepreneur, when we're streaming these lives and just creating connection to have us support each other, because we know how hard it is, and
Mhm.
there's so many women doing amazing things. Imagine if we just like all got together and was just supporting each other. And
Amazing.
maybe it's not purchasing a product or solution. Maybe it's just one day saying, hey, Nina, you're like doing amazing. Shout out to you, like on LinkedIn, or
Yeah.
like referrals, right? If you know that
Yes.
you can't use that service of another woman entrepreneur, refer them out to like 3 other people, right?
Absolutely.
That's how
Absolutely.
business is done. Like for me, it's in sisterhood and collaboration and like supporting each other, like cheering each
Yes.
other on, because that's how we're going to do it.
And it's so good, to contribute to the success of other people too. It just makes you feel good. And to be around that kind of energy, when you're around that kind of female, not competition, that open, just that giving, easy connection, that is what kind of drives me. I mean, I collect people in my life. I always have. So, I have like 6 or 7 really close friends that have known me 40 years. Like, and we get together a few times a year. And so I keep, trying to add to my collection of wonderful women, because there's just power there. And I can't wait to see what we're able to do as a collective.
Yeah.
We're hearing like the first parts, like we're hearing the battle cry, it's time for us to like join together and be heard, like more than ever. I mean, I never in a million years thought that we would be here, in this place where our reproductive rights are disappearing. I mean, And that's what's terrifying. It's not just us, it's the other marginalized groups. They're, talking about repealing some of the LGBTQ rights and the marriages, dissolving those. And that is terrifying. And so as women, we need to rise up. This is our time. This is our time to say, no, enough. This is not okay. We are not okay.
Yeah. And I think it's time for us to think about it from a different perspective and be courageous enough to try from a new paradigm. The
Yes.
old ways that we have done, for me personally, don't work anymore. And I think that's why all these systems are breaking.
Yep.
So I'm with you. Rise up and let's be creative on how we solve these problems.
Right. And let's
Right.
own our success and let's step into it without fear anymore. And we can change, we have the power to change what is happening. And I hope that in a small way, that's what my books do, is that I get people to open up and think about things differently and maybe change some minds. And for me, that would be success. Someone like you that has is more of an extrovert and has more of an audience to say that message to, everyone has their own talent that they can bring to this fight, and we need to all assemble. It's time.
Yes. So I love it. I love it. So we talked a little bit about your book,
Yeah.
being an author, entrepreneurship journey. I'm curious, how do you stay in, I like to say, in this pleasurable state? Like, how do you bring pleasure into your life? How do you bring joy into your life? Because you have said the last couple of years have been rocky.
Yeah.
So what do you do to keep yourself going?
It's tough too. As mothers, all our time and our energy is completely, it's tasked. Other people take energy from us a lot of the time. So it's hard to find that space or even the permission to take that self-care that you need, because typically mothers are the last person to go to the doctor is you. You set up appointments for all your kids, but you're avoiding all those self-care things. And so for me, it has been, I'm a big proponent of therapy. I have been in a lot of it, and I will probably do it till I die. I also try to read really uplifting things. So I still read a lot of self-help and, just good reads that way, just I keep putting good stuff in.
Yeah.
I try to stay away from anything negative. So I don't watch any news. It's really tough to stay in a positive state when you feel so manipulated by the media.
Yeah.
But one thing that has been really important for me is travel. And so I haven't been able to get away as much as I'd like in the last few years, but I got an eye on Iceland as one of my big places that I want to go to next. And when I turned 50, I decided that I was going to do something that scared the hell out of me, because I feel like you have to, push yourself sometimes. And the idea of traveling, out of the country by myself terrifies me.
Yeah.
So I'm making plans to go to Ireland on my 50th and see that country.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that. And planning things like that really gets me excited and makes me feel rejuvenated and that kind of thing. And being outside, the hiking and forest bathing, that is a thing, and that works. That restores me like nothing else does. It's a really great.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I feel like we're soul sisters, because I'm yes, traveling gets me excited. Yes, I'm trying to be a little bit more adventurous, and but traveling by myself scares me. But there was this Facebook ad that I saw the other day. I forgot what the woman's name was, but she was a woman entrepreneur. She teaches women how to set a safety plan to travel abroad. So she gives you all these tips. So for me, it's kind of my fear for my safety, but she talks about how to travel by yourself, and she's been all over the world.
That's amazing.
So
To
yeah,
me,
I was
that's so exciting.
yeah, I was okay. And I think it's just, again, one of the reasons I do this show is because if you see one person do it, then you oh, I can do this, right?
Yep. Makes
So
it so much easier for sure.
yeah, so I'm cheering you on for travel. That always makes me happy.
know, I never traveled before I went to Scotland, and now I can't think of anything else to do. It's crazy.
It's just such a mind opener for me. Like I just learned so much when I travel.
Absolutely. I love people, and I'm so curious about how they live and what they do and how they, just all of it really fascinates me. And so I get like fed when I'm doing things like that, and just kind of people watching and seeing what the customs are, and that kind of thing. It's really just makes my heart happy.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. You did a phenomenal job, even though you said you're an introvert, like did not see that.
Oh
Um,
no.
thank you again for the writing, the work that you do and bringing attention to all these different subject matters. I love that you do it with like a twist, and really working for marginalized people. I think it's so important. And thank you for being an author, right? And showing women that it's possible, that you can like sole purpose write and change the world and make it a better place. So I love it.
I
So
hope
everyone,
so.
make sure you go to Teal Butterfly Press. She's got a couple of different books, more than a few different books to choose
Yeah.
from. Support women entrepreneurs. Yeah. And again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining Digital Growth Live. Again, platform for women entrepreneurs, showcasing how amazing and fabulous and I'm going to say delicious. I'm just going to be authentic that we are and how we are doing different things in the world, and helping women to be seen and heard. And that's really my
Absolutely.
goal.
Thanks for having me. It was so fun to talk to you. We
Yeah.
are soul sisters. We need to do this again off camera.
Yes, yes, yes. And if you really, I have an idea. Somebody went to Iceland, so I'm going to connect you with that person,
Yeah.
so you can ask a little bit more. They just came back from Iceland.
Oh, that's so cool. One quick little story. So one of my favorite things that I've read about Iceland so far is that on Christmas Eve, they give each other books and chocolate, and they stay up all night eating the chocolate and reading the books. I'm like, if
That
there's
sounds
ever
good.
a place for me, that's where I need to be.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. That's
Right?
You had me at chocolate.
I know. Weakness.
All right, beautiful. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. And to my audience, I'll see you next time. Bye.